this video, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why you should be giving XP for gold. Maybe more than 3. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm Tristan. This is Heroes in Homebrew. So in earlier versions of D&D, players used to get experience points for gold. They would go into the dungeons, they would find the treasure, they would haul it out, bring it back to town, and yay, experience points. So I have 3 reasons why this works a lot better than just giving experience points for killing monsters or whatever other things the Dungeon Master wants to give it for. Reason the first. Easy accounting. When you've got, say, 2,000 gold pieces out of the chest that you just cracked open, and maybe one of your players died because there was a poison needle in it, and if so, hey, more experience points for everybody. The accounting for it is very simple. You have a party of 4, 2,000 experience points. That's 500 experience points each, or 500 gold pieces each. Bring it back to town. They each get 500 XP for that 2,000 gold. Whereas if you kill, say, 20 goblins, you have to add all that up and then dole it out. Now, giving XP for gold doesn't mean you're not going to get XP for killing monsters. It's just it's not a primary motivation. Calculating the experience points you get from different gold pieces and gems and copper and all this makes life very easy. You tell the party, okay, you guys found 2,500 gold pieces, 1,000 silver pieces, and 2,000 copper pieces. Now, okay, so it's 10 copper for 1 silver, 100 copper for 1 gold. The accounting becomes very easy, and once they bring it back to town, they can get the experience points for that. Now, some games or DMs will make the players spend the money to get the experience points, but I think that's a little much for, at least for my tastes, for my table. But the point is they still have to keep adventuring and get all this gold back to town, which means they have to plan ahead. They have to have the retainers to carry the gold. They need to have the sacks to carry the gold. So it creates this whole other thing. But in the end, the accounting is very easy. Reason the second. It encourages exploration. If the motivation for most players, and let's face it, it is to level your character up, and the main way that they're going to level up is by getting gold, that means they need to explore places to get the gold. That means they have to travel out of the town, they need to find the dungeon, they need to go into the dungeon, and they need to explore it. The only way they're going to get this gold is by exploring it. Maybe they'll get some gold if they pick up a quest here or there, but by and large, the biggest amount of gold that they're going to find or get is through explorations, through finding those dungeons, exploring those dungeons, bringing what they can carry back to town, and going back to the dungeon to get more gold, digging deeper and deeper into those dungeons. And once that dungeon is finished, well, then they're going to have to go further afield. They're going to have to explore the landscape and find more dungeons, more ruins, more anything that'll give them more gold, allow them to bring it back to town, and level up. And my final reason is gold for XP encourages creative problem solving. Knowing that the vast majority of your XP is going to come from what gold you can bring back to town means that players are going to be less likely to rush into combat with everything, because those 4 goblins are not going to give them as much XP as the treasure that is in the next room over. So they're going to work around those things. Like, they're going to try and find creative solutions to avoid the combat, to keep themselves alive, to get that gold. In more modern versions of the game, where the majority of your XP comes from monsters, is you're encouraged to kill literally everything. Whereas older versions, if you know that you can avoid this combat, you can either just dip out of the room and keep moving, or come up with some kind of creative solution to how you're going to get around these goblins, or get around that giant, or get around that ogre to avoid dying, then you have a better chance of finding more gold later on. And you never know, if you're clever enough, maybe you can make an ally out of those goblins. Maybe they're going to help you or give you an idea of where there's more gold that they can get. So encouraging this creative problem solving brings a whole new dynamic to a game, where newer versions are basically encouraging just run into combat. Chances are I'm not going to die, and we're just going to slog for the next hour in combat until we get the experience points from these guys. So I don't want to sound like life was better in the old days and the old games are better than the new games. Far from it. It doesn't even mean that you need to stop giving XP for the monsters you kill. Hi, Future Tristan here. So I felt like I needed to clarify a couple of things. First of all, there are lots of ways you can give XP to players that outside of gold and combat. There's rewarding them for social interactions, which would be an encounter. There's rewarding them for creative play. There's also using the milestone concept, which I'm not a huge fan of because it comes with its own problems, but it's another way. The reason why XP for gold was so popular in older editions is because there was an emphasis on having retainers, like non-fighting people to carry your loot, extra fighting men to protect you in the dungeons. There was an emphasis on domain play, where it was building your keep. So all of those things lent itself to motivating the players to get as much gold and level up as much as possible, because the more you level up, the more gold you can get, because you can go deeper in the dungeons, get more gold, level up more, go deeper in the dungeons, get more gold, level up more, this kind of thing. Outside of that, you can give XP for anything you want, really, and I often do. I'll give XP for being creative during the session. The other thing is, when they get the XP, the gold, they don't get the XP right away. They have to bring it back to town, so it means they have to survive that trip back. Anyway, back to the show. The whole point of these role-playing games is to have fun and encourage creativity. It's to see what kind of solutions you can come up with, what kind of stories you can build. If every session is basically the same, where you have X amount of encounters to get X amount of XP, it can become a little dull. At least it did for me. You coming to your table and saying, hey guys, I think we're going to start giving 1 XP per gold piece that you guys bring back to town. There's going to be a little bit of shock, but it might change the dynamic of your game. It might create a new story. They're going to say, oh, maybe we should go out and adventure and explore. Or they're going to hate it, and you're going to go back to giving XP for monsters. Either way, you tried something new. But if you're used to playing older games, then you know giving XP for gold is a great way to encourage your players to get into those dungeons and amass wealth so that they can buy pieces of land and build their castles and move on to that whole other level of play. And that's it. So save a seat for me at your table.